If you accidentally touch a hot stove, your nervous system, it doesn't pause to ask for the strength to endure the burn. It just violently pulls your hand back. It's this pure, instantaneous reflex to escape pain.
Right, exactly. We're entirely hardwired to seek the immediate removal of any physical or emotional threat. I mean,
Mm.
it is just basic survival.
Yeah, which brings us to today. We are doing a deep dive specifically for you, the listener, into a document titled Talking About Jesus. And our mission is to explore how this text, well, how it attempts to radically reframe that basic human reflex from a Christian perspective.
It really does. The underlying premise asks a pretty heavy question, honestly. Like, what if immediately removing the pain isn't actually the goal?
Right, because when people face trials, the natural instinct is to pray for a clear path. Just get me out of this.
Exactly. But the author outlines a completely different approach to the inevitable storms of life.
Yeah.
The thesis here is that Christ operates with a framework that looks past temporary comfort.
So he's not just clearing the obstacles out of the way.
No, not at all. And he doesn't just stand on the sidelines while things get tough either.
Instead, the premise is that he meets believers right in the center of their deepest trials, right? By providing a measure of grace that is perfectly tailored to the exact weight of their specific burden.
Yes, perfectly tailored, which is such an interesting phrase.
It reminds me of like a perfectly calibrated counterweight on a construction crane.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, the crane isn't given a lighter box to lift. The counterweight simply matches the heavy load so the whole thing doesn't tip over. It's this mechanism of not removing the problem, but neutralizing its destructive potential through matched support. But why? Why go this route instead of just clearing the path?
Well, the reasoning behind that mechanism gets to the core of the author's argument. Allowing these trials isn't framed as a lack of love.
It's the exact opposite, right?
Yeah, it's framed as a profound devotion to the believer's soul. Think about that Biosphere 2 experiment from the 90s.
Oh, right, with the giant glass dome.
Exactly. Inside the dome, trees grew rapidly, but they kept falling over before reaching maturity. They fell because there was no wind.
Wow. So they needed the biological stress of wind resistance to actually grow deep, anchoring roots.
Precisely. Within this framework, worldly trials are the wind required to build unshakable faith. God is described using the classical metaphor of a master potter, applying intense pressure to raw clay to shape it into something resilient.
Okay, hold on, though. Matched grace and growing deep roots, I mean, that sounds nice in theory. But when someone is entirely tapped out, telling them they're just being molded feels, I don't know, a bit dismissive.
That is a very fair point.
Especially since the author even introduces an adversary, which seems to personify doubt and despair as this active hostile force deliberately trying to break a person. How does this text expect a weary believer to realistically handle that?
Well, the author is surprisingly pragmatic about that burnout. They warn that more tribulations, basically periods of severe, unavoidable hardship, are absolutely guaranteed to come.
So there's no toxic positivity here.
Right, none at all. The survival strategy offered isn't to somehow muster up more of your own fragile human strength. It's a relentless shift in focus.
A relentless shift in focus. Got it.
Yeah, the author points to the biblical story of the Apostle Peter walking on water. When Peter focuses on the terrifying crashing waves, he sinks. But when he looks at the Savior, he stays afloat.
Looking at that psychologically, it makes perfect sense. Focusing on the chaotic waves of a crisis causes massive cognitive overload.
Absolutely. You literally drown in the terrifying variables you can't control.
Right, so by fixing your focus on a stable external anchor point, in this case, the Savior, you bypass that panic response and maintain buoyancy. It's essentially a powerful tool for cognitive reframing.
Exactly. It shifts the perspective entirely away from the immediate pain toward an ultimate conclusion. The ultimate promise here is that your present pain is merely a chapter, not the end of the story.
So the temporary struggles just pale in comparison to what comes next.
Yes, an eternal reward of perfect peace, radiant joy, and unbroken fellowship. By anchoring themselves in that future, believers fundamentally change the narrative of their own suffering.
Which brings us right back to that hot stove reflex we started with. We are biologically wired to flinch, pull away from the burn.
It is our default setting.
It is. But we want to leave you with this to ponder. If you truly internalized this text premise and viewed tomorrow's greatest, most unexpected frustration strictly as the necessary wind resistance to grow your roots deeper, how would that fundamentally alter your immediate physical and emotional reaction to it?